My stepdaughter insulted me in front of my whole family. My wife said, "She's not your daughter." So I smiled, canceled her tuition, took back the car, and served them both eviction papers. Hello Reddit I+ here. I'm 42 years old, and for the past decade, I thought I'd built a family worth fighting for. Turns out, I was the only one fighting. My wife Marianne and I met 12 years ago when I was opening my second restaurant in Charleston. She was a widow then, raising her daughter Lily, who was barely 15. Marianne was smart, charming, and had a way of making everyone around her feel small without ever raising her voice. I should have seen that as a warning, not a lure. Fast forward to last month. We were hosting a private dinner at my home to celebrate the 10th anniversary of my first restaurant, Harbor Light Grill. It had started as a tiny seafood shack by the docks. Now it was one of the top-rated fine dining spots in the state. My parents were there, my brothers, some close friends, people who'd seen me burn myself to the bone to build something out of nothing. That night was supposed to be mine, but it became something else entirely. The dining room was glowing with warm light, laughter, clinking glasses, stories about our childhood. It all felt right, until my brother Eli, slightly buzzed from his third beer, turned to Lily. "So, Lily," he said, grinning, "what are you gonna study with that fancy tuition this guy's paying for, huh? You've got the world laid out in front of you?" Lily didn't even look up from her phone. Her thumbs danced across the screen like I wasn't even there. "I don't know," she muttered, her tone dripping with disinterest. "Something useful. Law, maybe? Or business, not waiting tables or cooking shrimp." The room went still. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My father's face tightened. My mother pressed her napkin to her lips. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice low but trembling. Lily glanced up, her expression cool, almost bored. "I said not everyone wants to serve food for a living. Some of us aim higher." Every word landed like a knife to the chest. Before I could say anything else, Marianne shot me a glare. Sharp, deadly. "Don't talk to her like that," she snapped. "She's not your daughter, remember? Don't correct her. She's just being honest. Something you could try for once." I felt the blood drain from my face. The silence that followed could have frozen fire. Even my brother, who never shuts up, just stared at his plate. My parents looked down, embarrassed for me, so I smiled. Just a small, tight smile, the kind that hides the storm underneath. The next morning, when Marianne and Lily left the house the next morning, Girls' Day, as they called it, I sat at my desk, coffee untouched, laptop open, and every emotion in my body stripped down to pure calculation. Something had been off for months. Whispered phone calls, new clothes I didn't remember buying, credit card charges that never made sense. I'd told myself not to be paranoid, but now, I wanted the truth. So I opened the joint account statements, and there it was. The map of betrayal spread right in front of me. Hotel stays, every Tuesday and Thursday, always when they said they were running errands together. Luxury purchases I never saw in the house. Jewelry, perfume, transfers, steady, sneaky ones, to a secondary account under a name I didn't recognize. Almost $40,000 gone over 6 months. And then came the video. The motion camera by the front door, the one Marianne didn't know existed, showed my neighbor, Darren, slipping into my house 15 minutes after I left for work. He had a key. He stayed for hours. And when he left, he looked like a man who'd just finished something shameful. My hands shook, but I didn't cry. I just stopped feeling. By noon, I'd made every call I needed to make. University tuition, canceled. Credit cards, frozen. Her car, sold. It was in my name after all. Joint accounts, closed. House title, already in my trust. I just called the lawyer to prepare an eviction notice. By sunset, their world was unraveling, and they didn't even know it yet. That evening, they came home laughing, shopping bags in hand. I was sitting at the dining table, same spot as the night before. Marianne stopped when she saw the envelope in my hand. "What's that?" I slid it across the table. "Your notice to vacate. You've got 7 days. Her face twisted. "What? What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the hotel charges," I said evenly. "The second bank account. The neighbor's key. The lies." Lily looked confused for a second, then defensive. "You can't just cancel my tuition. That's my future." "No," I said, standing slowly. "That was my money, and I just decided not to waste it on someone who thinks waiting tables is beneath them." Marianne lunged forward, her face red with fury. "You can't do this to us." "Oh, I can," I said, and for the first time in years I meant it. "Because you were right last night, Marianne. She's not my daughter, and you're not my wife. You were just tenants in a home I built." The silence that followed was different this time. No anger, no yelling, just fear. and I savored it. 2 weeks later, the house was quiet again, peaceful. I'd sold the restaurant chain to a partner and opened a new place. Smaller, humbler, but mine again. I hired kids from rough backgrounds, people who actually needed a chance. One night, my brother Eli came by and dropped a bottle of whiskey on the counter. "You're handling this better than anyone else I know would," he said. I shrugged. "You learn a lot from serving people. You learn how they treat those they think are beneath them." Turns out, my family wasn't an exception. He raised his glass. "To starting over," and I clinked mine against his. "To finally seeing people for who they really are." It's strange how silence can be louder than any scream. For weeks after Marianne and Lily left, the house echoed with ghosts. Not the haunting kind, just the soft reminders of a life that was never really mine. The faint perfume on the curtains, the half-empty mug she always forgot on the counter, the framed photos where I smiled like I actually belonged. I could have burned them all, but I didn't. I left them where they were, silent witnesses to a life built on lies. The lawsuit. 3 weeks later, I got the call. Marianne was suing me. Unlawful eviction, her lawyer said. Emotional distress. Marital assets mismanagement. I almost laughed. My attorney, Vincent, an old friend from culinary school who'd turned to law after burning out in kitchens, leaned back in his chair and smirked. "She doesn't have a leg to stand on. You've got evidence, receipts, video footage, everything. Let her dig her own grave." Still, it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about humiliation. Marianne wanted revenge for being cut off, and she got a little piece of it. Word spread around town. People whispered. The chef whose wife cheated on him. The one who kicked out his family. Charleston's gossip mill turned my pain into entertainment. But the funny thing about rumors, they fade fast when you stop feeding them. I sold the house, bought a smaller place by the marsh, nothing fancy, just enough for me and my peace. I renamed my restaurant chain Salt and Smoke, a symbolic little nod to what I'd learned. That sometimes destruction is purification. I started mentoring at a local culinary school once a week. Not for money, for meaning. One of my students, Aria, was 27, bright, stubborn, raw talent, but always second-guessing herself. She reminded me of who I was 20 years ago, before I learned that ambition can be both a blessing and a curse. She'd stay after class sometimes, asking for feedback, talking about her mother's failed diner, about working 3 jobs to stay afloat. I listened more than I spoke, something Marianne never did for anyone. One evening, as we were cleaning up, she asked, "Do you ever stop feeling angry?" I paused, wiping a counter that didn't need cleaning. "Not really," I said quietly. "You just learn how to cook with the fire instead of letting it burn you." She smiled faintly. "That's poetic," I shrugged. "Or just what happens when life overcooks you a few times." We laughed. For the first time in months, it didn't feel forced. Meanwhile, Marianne's decline. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard how things were going on her end. Not great. The friend she'd been seeing, Darren, the neighbor, had vanished once the money stopped flowing. Apparently, she'd tried to move in with him, but his wife found out, and he packed his bags for another state. Lily's university rescinded her enrollment when tuition stopped coming through. She tried working part-time while couch-hopping with friends, but the real world doesn't coddle arrogance. Within months, both of them were renting a single-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. For someone like Marianne, who once bragged about never settling, it was poetic justice. I didn't take pleasure in their suffering. Not exactly. But I couldn't deny the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd finally stopped being their fool. A year passed. Salt and Smoke grew, not just in profit, but in heart. The kind of place where regulars became friends, and laughter filled the gaps where pain used to live. Aria graduated top of her class. When I offered her a position as sous chef, she nearly cried. She worked harder than anyone I'd ever trained. Late nights, early mornings, endless experimenting, and in the stillness of closing hours, when it was just the two of us cleaning up, we'd talk, not about love, not yet, but about life, about trust, about what it means to lose everything and find something better in its place. One night, she asked softly, "Do you ever miss them, your family?" I thought for a long moment. "I miss the idea of them," I said finally. "The version I thought existed, but I don't miss the reality." She nodded, eyes glistening like she understood more than she said. Almost 2 years to the day after that disastrous dinner, Marianne showed up at Salt and Smoke. It was a slow afternoon. I was at the bar signing invoices when I saw her reflection in the mirror behind the counter. She looked smaller, older, tired in a way I'd never seen before. "Evan," she said softly. My name, for the first time in forever without venom. "Can we talk?" I motioned toward a table by the window. She sat, hands trembling slightly as she stirred her water. No jewelry, no designer bag. Just a woman who'd finally run out of performances. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said, eyes glassy, for what I said that night, for everything. I thought if I made you feel small, I'd feel bigger. I studied her face. The guilt was real, but so was the calculation. Marianne had always been a master at blending the two. I forgave you a long time ago, I said quietly. But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. She winced. I don't want your money. I just wanted to tell you, I've been trying to make things right with Lily. She's working now. We're getting by. That's good, I said, standing up. I hope you both keep doing that. She looked up sharply. That's it? After everything we had? I smiled faintly. We didn't have anything, Marianne. We borrowed comfort from each other until it ran out. And when it did, you showed me who you really were. I turned to walk away, but she reached out, voice breaking. You'll regret letting me go. I paused, looked back, and said softly, I already did once. Never again. Then I walked back into my kitchen, my world, my peace, and didn't look back. 2 years later. Now, when people ask me about failure, I tell them this. It's not losing everything that breaks you. It's realizing you were holding on to nothing all along. Arya eventually became head chef. She runs the place with the same fire I once had, maybe even more. We built something real, not built on money or image, but on mutual respect. We never labeled what we were. We didn't need to. Some connections grow quietly, like embers that never go out. Every so often I drive past my old neighborhood. The house looks the same, but smaller. The man who once felt trapped inside it is long gone. There's a quote I keep framed above my new desk. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to learn what was never yours to begin with. It reminds me that not all endings are tragedies. Some are just the universe making room for something better. And me, I finally learned that peace doesn't come from love that stays. It comes from loving yourself enough to let go of what doesn't.